John Bolton indictment. I was on television tonight talking about the John Bolton indictment and wanted to give you this quick hot take on it to give us all some perspective on what to watch for as this coverage continues going forward. In a nutshell, as you probably already read, and you can read here on this article for some more substance on it, he is charged with mishandling classified documents. It's kind of a weird little story, right? He apparently was allegedly emailing to himself using maybe Gmail, AOL notes, and also notes to, I think, family members. They're only identified as individual one or two, but you can tell from the indictment they're family members. And these were apparently notes he was going to use in a book that eventually did get published. And that's the notion of he's using a non-secure system to talk about classified or national security sensitive information. Does that remind us of anything? So that's what it's about. There's also one piece in it which is really kind of weird about where apparently his email got hacked. There was a Iranian state actor who was taunting him about having hacked it, and that's all part of this situation. And the question is, as was put to me tonight on the network, is this law enforcement or is it lawfare? And that's what we're going to dive into. But first, before we do that, make sure you subscribe, hit that subscribe button, tell other people to subscribe, continue to help us be the biggest as well as the best legal analysis and political analysis channel. So let's dive into this question that was posed to me by the News Nation anchor of, is this law enforcement or is it lawfare? And let's take a look at how one of my fellow panelists answers the question. Very well respected, former, I think, Southern District of New York prosecutor. We'll play that for you for a second.
You asked the question, is this lawfare or law enforcement? And I'm going to go with law enforcement here. This indictment to me stands in pretty stark contrast to the indictments we saw of James Comey and Letitia James. This is really the type of charging document that we're used to seeing coming out of DOJ.
Now, I disagree with her. I say it's lawfare, and I'll tell the anchor that in a moment. I get why she says that, though, and it's really important why she says that, because this indictment, it's much longer. It's 26 pages versus 2 pages for Comey. I think 5 pages or something for Letitia James. It looks more like what people are used to seeing from DOJ, particularly former prosecutors. It's long. It's like 26 pages. It sets out facts. It's what's called a speaking indictment, meaning it's speaking about the allegations, not just a bare bones listing of it, what they call notice pleading there. So this paints the picture, says what Bolton did, what his background was, national security advisor, and then it gives the charges. But there's something really important that we have to keep in mind, which you all probably already know, but as you hear the legal analysts look at this generally, there's going to be a lot of talk about how it looks more substantive than the other ones, that there's more meat to it. And I just want to distinguish something here. This may have more meat to it in the sense that it's going to be a much harder case to defend because of the allegations, the substance behind the allegations in terms of evidence. But that doesn't mean that it should be taken as a case which has integrity to it. Because at this point, the Justice Department has lost any credibility, right? The so-called presumption of regularity, which is that courts will give deference to prosecutors saying that, oh, we're going to presume you have some good faith as a public official. That's all gone. Courts don't even treat the DOJ prosecutors with that much deference or respect anymore. They're tired of it. And we should really be tired of it too. There's no reason to give the benefit of the doubt to any allegations that this DOJ points out. And here are some clues that you're going to see in the indictment. But first, after I express this, the other panelist, Jim Trusty, who's a former Trump attorney, says this.
This is not anything close to lawfare. If you look at the allegations in this indictment, the specific intent is proven 1,000 times over by John Bolton admitting he knows the rules when it refers to national defense and information. And why is it a problem for him to get on Google or on Gmail and get on AOL to send daily diary entries as a national security advisor to what is probably his wife and daughter, if you read between the lines? Why is he's creating this book in advance? The reason it's a problem is it's insecure, something he criticized on air all the time, and Iran hacked his email accounts.
Now, Jim's point here to me is all the whataboutism, right? He just is criticizing the whole idea that there could be any selective or vindictive prosecution here when, after all, this guy, John Bolton, has criticized others. He criticized President Trump's Mar-a-Lago investigation. That's got nothing to do with the merits of the case about John Bolton. That's whataboutism. So I don't think much of his comments, but what's important about his comments is the whataboutism in the indictment itself. So let's take a look here. First, paragraph 8, very small point here, but they talk about the fact that from the paragraph 8, from on or about April 9th, 2018 through at least on or about August 22nd, 2025, Bolton abused his position as National Security Advisor by sharing more than 1,000 pages of information, etc. You see that word abuse? That's not an element of mishandling classified information. That's, it's not like a sexual abuse charge or, spousal abuse, domestic violence, physical abuse. It's just a pejorative word to please, guess who? Probably the big boss, Mr. Trump. That's why they put that in there. And it gives you a clue as to where this indictment is going and what's really about. And then we move into the real whataboutism, which is starting in paragraph 61, which talks about Bolton's public statements on the handling of classified information. It goes on for quite some time, pointing out that Bolton has criticized other people's handling of classified information. And what is the point of that? It's completely irrelevant. It does not matter what Bolton has said about other people's mishandling of it, or in his opinion, they've mishandled it, or there should be consequences. Nothing to do with whether proving Bolton mishandled it. But it certainly makes Trump feel real good to talk about, oh, look at this guy, what a hypocrite he is. Now we're putting egg on his face because he said these things about other people, but he's going to be guilty of the same thing. It's utterly irrelevant. It's just whataboutism here. Now, an interesting point here is that before the indictment ever came out, I had talked about the fact that if this is a further distraction from Epstein, etc., it's part of the enemy's retribution campaign, it may have an unintended effect of reminding people about Trump's own Mar-a-Lago case. And if that's the case, I'd be looking for a selective prosecution dismissal motion is coming from his defense team saying, hey, unlike President Trump, he was not given numerous instances, letters from the archivist saying, hey, return the information. There wasn't any attempt to sort of work this out before having the search warrant on his house and now bringing the charges. To that extent, if that's what's going on there for the Trump DOJ, it may end up only reminding people of what happened in Mar-a-Lago rather than kind of distracting them from what happened there. And you know something? It really should remind us about that case. Because remember this odd fact about how Bolton's email got hacked by a foreign asset and that asset was taunting him? We know that his material did end up with a foreign asset. What we don't know about all those documents in Mar-a-Lago, remind us of some of these photos, we don't know where they went. And we may never know that. So not for 1 second should we forget the source of this indictment. And it doesn't really matter whether he's found guilty or not guilty, whether the case gets dismissed or not. The origination of bringing this case is only about Donald Trump disliking somebody and wanting to bring the case. It really isn't about anything else. Once it enters the process, yeah, it's about a lot of things. What did the grand jury think? What's the trial jury going to think? What's the judge going to think? That's all within the process. But it doesn't mean that that process was started with any integrity, because it wasn't. So we'll keep an eye on this case for you.
Can't get your fill of Legal AF? Me neither. That's why we formed the Legal AF Substack. Every time we mention something in a hot take, whether it's a court filing or a oral argument, come over to the Substack. You'll find the court filing and the oral argument there, including a daily roundup that I do called, wait for it, Morning AF. What else? All the other contributors from Legal AF are there as well. We got some new reporting. We got interviews. We got ad-free versions of the podcast and hot takes. Where? Legal AF on Substack. Come over now to free subscribe.